Peel Port's Liverpool2 development, a two-berth container terminal capable of accommodating two 13,500 TEU vessels alongside at the same time, is causing a stir in the port industry. We asked Peel Port's Group Sales Director, Thompson, to give us his views.
We're looking really at Liverpool2, which you started work on quite recently.
Yep.
That looks as if it's going on apace. How's it going?
It's going very well. It's a 300 million investment, deep sea container terminal. One of the largest investments that the Peel Group has made in containers, and we're on schedule to deliver that by the end of 2050.
You've just spent 100 million quid on the cranes.
We have, yes, a big order. It's a landmark.
Yep.
What that means is that we're speccing the terminal to be very efficient. So the cranes are very high spec. They work at 55 miles an hour wind speeds. They're future-proof, they're state-of-the-art, and they go in line with a terminal operating system called Navis 4, which again is state-of-the-art. So we'll be one of the most efficient terminals in Northern Europe.
Now you've gone for this on the basis that you're going to be able to handle some really large ships.
We have, yes.
Tell us the reasoning behind that, because currently the North Atlantic trade that you really specialise in is relatively smaller ships, isn't it? It's 50,000 tonnes?
Yep, so you could say the transatlantic market is the core or mainstay of our business.
Right.
We currently are constrained in container-sized vessels by the width of our lock. So about the largest vessel that we can take at the moment is around about 4,500 TEU. Because of the lock restrictions, vessels are getting bigger. We know the average size on the transatlantic services is moving from up towards around 7,000, 8,000 TEU vessels, and we need to invest to keep pace with that. So, as you rightly point out, we are the largest transatlantic port in the UK. We have a 45% market share when you include the Canadian volumes on the eastern port. And in order to maintain and grow our position, we need to invest in the infrastructure that can deal with larger ships.
Right, when we look at the American ports where your ships come from, they're dredging as well, aren't they, to take larger ships anyway, most of them?
They are, and there's also the consequence of the Panama Canal being widened in order to take larger ships. So we do see things like round-the-world services coming through the Panama Canal, and the growing services from the sort of Latin and the Southern America states coming back to what would be considered the old heritage ports. Brings them back into, but they need investment in order to deliver the efficiencies that the shipping lines want, and to handle the size of the vessels that they want to put on these trades.
Now, the one question that people ask or have asked us in the short term when we said we wanted to speak to you was where do you think the trade for or do you think you're going to get a trade in larger ships fairly early on? Because the question is, where do you get those bigger ships from? They look as if they're currently doing Felixstowe, they're starting to do London Gateway, they're certainly doing Southampton, and Liverpool is a big divert.
Yes, so Liverpool is a big diversion from traditional shipping routes, but that's been allowed to grow up because we couldn't handle the size of vessels that come in the market. If you look at the hinterland of the port of Liverpool in the northwest, the majority of the population live within an 80-mile radius of the port of Liverpool. So that's really the heartland of the consumption. The northwest is also the heartland of the industrial output of the UK. So our terminal is closer to the consumption and the output than any other terminal. So we would see ourselves as the most centrally located terminal in the UK at this point. There are growing trade lanes, particularly South American trades, Latin American trades are in a growth state. The Asian trade lane, which is in a mildly growth state to neutral state, and some would say in decline at some areas, is a large trade lane. However, will reach its capacity in the next 5 to 10 years. However, the southern economies and their output means that those trades are becoming much more important, and we've seen a cascading effect that those vessels coming up from the South American states are now going into the 9,000 TEUs and above. We're building our terminal not just for today but for the next 30 years. So where we say we can take two vessels of 13,500 TEU at any one point in time, that's really about looking at vessels of 9, 8, 7, 6,000 TEUs and then growing up to 13,500. Of course, we could take a 13,500 TEU vessel from day one. But the terminal is also future-proof to take larger vessels and phase 2, phase 3. So it's really a case of being able to service the growing trades and our traditional markets to the expectations of the shipping lines.
Someone suggested that some of the shipping lines, specifically on the Asia-Europe routes, might look at calling somewhere like Liverpool because they're getting calls from shippers to actually regionalise their delivery, because the cost of sea delivery is still so much cheaper than land delivery.
And that's absolutely right. And we've got a lot of support from the cargo owners themselves. It's either the importer or the manufacturer, because what they want is to minimise their inland logistics costs and put their cargo on a vessel or to deliver into the place of consumption or the place of output. And we are the terminal that's closest to the growing area of the market. I'll give you a little statistic here. The old golden triangle of Birmingham, if you like, where the UK used to house most of its large warehouses. There is more warehousing north of Birmingham, large-scale warehousing, and the future development and investment in warehousing and logistics park happening now in the northwest than ever before, and it is now larger than the old golden triangle of the middle of the country in Birmingham. So what does that mean? That means the demand is shifting to where the consumption and the outputs actually are, and that is a huge advantage to Liverpool because we're in the heartland of that. So I can see why shippers are putting pressure on their shipping lines to make that call, and we absolutely would dearly love to be able to be in a position to provide them that.
We'll bring you more on UK ports when we have it.